Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 17th December 2016. The first article is Mapping the American Mind by Krishna Kumar. It talks about two different types of thinking on education. One is through progressives and other one is by neoliberals. The progressive sees education as a tool that integrates the society. So that's why it has to be inclusive and there has to be a commonality of education. So let us see this way. The education, if it has to be a tool to promote democracy, it has to convert the democracy as a way of life. That is my first statement. The second statement is the quality of education need to be judged on the basis of the extent to which it promotes the interaction between different social groups and to what extent it makes them informed to make the decisions. The third thing is education has to raise the spirits of the individual and has to provide for intergroup communications to sustain the democracy. So this is what we call it as endosmosis. That is, John Dewey, he has used the word endosmosis, which signifies that the education shall provide for communication between different social groups. And once this communication is being provided for, it leads to greater interaction and bonds the relationships between them. And it provides for strengthening of the democracy, and democracy becomes a way of life. So, ultimately, the progressive talk about a common inclusive education. So, this can be promoted only through the state intervention. So, they have suggested for a strong public education system. Now, if you come to the neoliberals, these are based on social Darwinism. Let the people choose what is best for them, and the survival of the fittest and natural selection. These principles of the Darwin, these are also applied towards human relations and human existence. It means the man or the group which can be strong comes over strong over the other group that will sustain. It means it believes that there is a fight among the different species, different groups, and one group shall win over the other group. So, if we apply this social Darwinism to the education sector, so let the education be open to all based on their affordability to pay. It means the private education is being encouraged. Then in 1980s, this has come down in the United States of America. Especially in the university education, it can be clearly seen. So the cost of education has increased at the university level, later at the primary education level too. Because of this, the access got limited only to few sections of the society. The idea of the commonality of education, which was enrooted in the public education system in the United States, was slowly dying. So now we have public schools and also the private schools. And slowly, public schools started deteriorating, and then the goal of the education became materialistic. It is rather than promoting the democracy interaction between the social groups, it is about making the taking the material benefits out of the education was cited as the ultimate goal by the neoliberals. So this deterioration of minds of the people in the United States and the change in the education system, which also has provided for the class conflict, social divisions among the people. So the very foundation of interaction between the different groups under the umbrella of education has slowly died over the last 30 years. And along with deepening of the deepening of the financial status or differences between the people has worsened the situation further. So again, let's come back to the statement. A malnourished mind cannot make the right choices. If we apply this statement, yes, the deterioration of the education has created the malnourished minds, where the social divisions have become much deeper in the United States of America. The election of Mr. Trump clearly indicates these social divisions and fissures created by neoliberal model of education. And decoding the Fed's signals. US Fed is raising the interest rates, and it is expected that they will raise by 1.4% by the end of November, by the end of 2017. Now, what are the reasons? The employment rate is growing in the United States, and consumer demand is also increasing. So, obviously, it is going to project a good growth rate for the United States of America. So, what are the implications of rise in US Fed rate to India? So as interest rates in US are rising, then more and more capital will be moving towards the US as the returns becomes much higher and it has got an economy a good rating. And second is the rupee will weaken against the dollar, or the demand for the dollar is bound to increase. As the demand increases, obviously there will be weakening of rupee, and it is going to make our imports much costlier. As imports becomes costlier, the trade deficit is bound to widen. And the second worrisome thing is the protectionist attitude of the President Trump, how it will impact the Indian technology sector. And the third thing is how the India US defense relations are going to move forward in the case of the President Trump era. So these are the issues which we need to see. And coming to the Parliament passes the Disabilities Bill. Now, yesterday we discussed the points of Disabilities Bill. Let's recollect. The number of disabilities are increased from 7 to 21, and it includes many of the mental disabilities too. And it is reflecting the changing socio dynamics in the society. As old age population is growing, the diseases or else the disabilities such as the Parkinson's disease, dementia are also included in the definition of disability. And it also makes the legal framework for disabled people, rights of the disabled, in alignment with the UN Convention. And third thing is there are penal provisions. If there is any discrimination, then imprisonment up to 2 years plus 5 lakh rupees of the penalty can be imposed. And added to that, a unique identity card will be given to the disabled, which will become one single access point for the benefits given to them by the government. So these are the important provisions of the bill. And then recently Dalai Lama has participated on a dais along with the President of India. It was to educate, it was organized by Kailash Satyarthi on educating the children across the world. So the China has resented this, stating Dalai Lama, who is in political exile, how can he share a dais with the President of India? So is that not politicization of the Tibet issue, which was against to the agreement between India and China? So what the China say, what is the agreement is about? Yes, India will be giving the exile to Dalai Lama, but will not allow him to use India for any political activity. But India dismissed that, saying that it is not a governmental activity; it is just an social gathering or a social activity. And then coming to the removal of the judge. 19 MPs backtrack on impeachment plea. Now, High Court judge, he can be removed by the Parliament. For this, a motion has to be introduced in the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. If it has to be Lok Sabha, 100 MPs have to support, and in the Rajya Sabha, at least 50 MPs have to sign. Then the motion will be or else brought in. But however, over Nagarjuna Reddy of the High Court of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, the Rajya Sabha failed to gather the support of 50 MPs. That's why the motion did not move forward. So read about the impeachment, that is removal of the judges of High Court and Supreme Court in this context for the prelims. Now, coming to digital economy, the government of India has come up with another move, that is Aadhaar enabled payment systems. So, here the citizens, as 99% of the elders have Aadhaar cards, Aadhaar based platforms will be enabled along with the mobile phones to pay the money to the vendors. But the challenges are cyber security and the status of Aadhaar itself in the doldrums. The Supreme Court, if it declares it as against to the right to privacy, then see how the Aadhaar system will be used by the government. And the next article in the world's page is Trump open to selling advanced arms to India. Hindu Republic Association of the United States, Mr. Shalabh Kumar, who was actively involved with Trump's campaign, he met him, and he said that Trump has issued him with the arms exports to India. So in this case, let us understand few points. There is a defense trade and technology initiative. India was declared as major defense partner by the United States. India Rapid Reaction Cell was established in Pentagon. National Defense Authorization Act is also passed by the Parliament, by the Congress of the United States of America. And along with that, logistics memorandum agreement is also been signed by these countries. These are the initiatives which are already taken with regard to strengthening of India-US defense relationship. Now coming to the notes of this day. So remember this John Dewey's article on democracy and education, and it is very much essential for our essay. There is a beautifully written words over here. You can even mug up them and you can use them to produce in your essay. There can be no other article like this. And then decoding the Fed signals. The trade deficit of India is bound to increase. The government has luxury of current account deficit being within the normal limits, and it has provided its room to manage its fiscal deficit. This was the major nightmare for the government of or else Manmohan Singh's government, because the fiscal deficit is very, as the current account deficit is very low, the government shift for the focus is on correcting the fiscal deficit in India. But the twin deficits were the major challenge during the Manmohan Singh era. So again, the current account deficit and the trade deficit are bound to increase in India this time. And then low parliament passed disabilities bill. And then we went into the question of the day on the education and democracy. So this is about this day's paper. Thank you very much. All the best.